Alright guys, take a look at this bike. Look at how big it is, huh? A little intimidating if I wasn't 6'4". This is a Harley Davidson Limited. I'm going to try to take this thing for a test drive. Ooh, the seat is super comfortable. Pretty nice. Ooh, I think I started it in gear. Huh, which is interesting. Look at how far up my knees come on the tank. It's got big floorboards. It's kind of interesting. Look at this big dash. Interesting. Has a little bit of vibration. You can see it in my hand. Not quite like a dyno. Well, maybe like a dyno. Look at that. How much that's shaking. That's pretty amazing, actually, that it shakes that much. Alright, so it feels a little top heavy. It seems like a lot of the ones with the big dash, the dash gives it a little bit more weight. Let's see, it's got like a big brake pedal here. Nice. Super plush in the seat. It feels like I'm sitting on a recliner. It feels pretty stable too. Seems like it's pretty easy to maneuver. Not too bad. Pretty smooth. Not too bad. Has a very upright position. Not really lean forward or lean back at all. I'm gonna go over the bumps, handle those bumps with ease. Couldn't even feel those bumps. Pretty awesome. It'll be interesting to see how the windshield does on the highway. Yeah, this almost feels like, I mean, it looks like a big bike when you come up to it, but since I'm really tall, 6'4", I'm 230 pounds, I almost need a big bike like this, I think. I don't know. There's like pros and cons to every bike. He said this was like one of their heaviest plus 60 pounds. So, let's see. Seems like it handles the corners pretty good. Got some roar to it. Oh, it's super smooth. Wow. It's like it's probably one of the smoothest Harley Davidsons as far as the suspension that I've ever been on. This is the Limited. Very nice suspension. Can't even feel the road. Can't feel any wind. It's pretty amazing. It is really amazing. This is almost car-like. Can't feel the wind, you can't feel the road. It's just like you're floating on a cloud. This is amazing. This is probably, I'd say this is almost smoother than a Goldwing, which is pretty amazing. I know one thing I didn't like about the Goldwing, I actually took that the 2021 Goldwing for a test drive, and wow, this is so smooth. One thing I didn't like about the Goldwing is there's a little bit of buffeting as far as the wind coming over the windshield. This one you can feel a little wind coming up over my head, but you can barely even feel it. I think this might be my new favorite bike. The only thing that I'm not a really big fan of the floorboards, because usually it brings my feet up a lot more than I really like. I really don't like my knees up above the tank like that. But man, this thing is smooth, easy to turn, really maneuverable. Really feels super stable and super planted on the road, which is pretty amazing. This is like a whole new level right here. It seems like it has a lot of power and a lot of pickup for a really big bike. You know, sometimes the really big bikes are so heavy that even if you have a big engine in there, they're kind of a little bit sluggish, but this one seems like it has a lot of pep to it. Definitely one of my favorite bikes. I'd say probably so far out of all the bikes that I've ridden, probably my #1 favorite. One thing I really don't like is my feet are a little bit too high. This would be great if it had like forward controls and pegs. I don't know if you can put forward controls and pegs on something like this, but I'm kind of a fan of forward controls. Pretty nice. The mirrors, pretty much standard Harley Davidson mirrors. The grips, kind of like a rubberized grip. It's kind of interesting in the grips. Nothing fancy, just like standard rubber grips, which is kind of amazing. You'd think they put slightly better grips than just like a black rubber on the grips, but they feel good. They feel really solid. So let's see. So this is a little bit tricky. Slow speeds, you know, slow speeds with one of these. It's a lot of times it'll be kind of top heavy. The friction zone's super small on this bike. Super small. It's like some of them have like a 3-inch friction zone. This one has like a 1/2-inch friction zone. See, we're losing the pack here. I feel super stable and super planted on the corners. That bump was actually pretty good. That was a pretty big bump. I hit pretty fast. Huh. No vibration in the handlebars at all. This thing is pretty amazing. It's probably the most amazing Harley Davidson I've ever been on in my life. This thing, super well planted, lots of power. Has a pretty good roar to it. Kind of the weird thing is I feel zero wind at all. Maybe a little bit right below my knees for about 2 inches, and that's it. I would think you could actually hit some rain pretty good in this. You wouldn't get wet at all. Seems like it would shed the rain really good. Super easy to drive. I'd say this bike is probably one of the easiest to get used to. You know, some of them it takes a while to actually learn, to really be confident on it. This one, you definitely, whoa. Yeah, speaking of confidence around the corners, I gotta get used to those corners, those sharper corners. It's really responsive. Seems like you can really go around those corners really well. And as far as pushing on the handlebars to go around the corner, you don't have to push hardly at all. It's effortless around these corners, which is pretty amazing. You know, some of them you really have to push, especially with the thicker fat tire like the Fat Boy and the Fat Bob. You really had to push to get them to go around the corners. This one is amazing. That's all I can say about this one. Of course, it's so big. You have so much. This one you could probably do like Sturgis or something. It has all the storage capacity. All right, let's see here. So the seat is super soft and super comfortable. It's pretty amazing. You could go in this seat for a really long time. I can tell my legs are getting a little fatigued because they're just a little bit too high compared to what I would prefer to have my legs just a little bit lower. Seems to be one of the problems being 6'4". It's hard to find a motorcycle that actually fits me. I'd say that, you know, being that tall, the only one that really fit me from Harley Davidson was maybe the Pan America, because it's, and that one, I don't know if it would fit smaller people because it's kind of designed for taller people. But this one, yeah, you could cruise long term on this, no problem at all. It's pretty amazing. One thing on this bike is going around those corners. I get a little bit nervous because this has floorboards, and I've seen people drag floorboards around the corners, and some people even say that, you know, floorboards are a consumable item, that you keep dragging them and then have to replace them. I've also seen some people with floorboards get hung up and crash the bike going into a corner really super sharp and then hitting the floorboards. So that's one thing that kind of makes me nervous. Although this bike is so easy to drive. It's so much pickup. It's so stable. High speed, we're going 65. It didn't even, it felt like I was going 30 at 65. That's absolutely amazing. You know, some bikes you're going 40 and it feels like you're going 80. This one's just the opposite. It's pretty amazing. It's a little bit, I'd say it's pretty stable. Actually, going at super slow speeds. Oh, that friction zone's really super short though. That's one thing. Kind of have to get used to that friction zone. The power is there, but it's not like scary power like in the Pan America. That Pan America, it felt like the front end was gonna flip up. I'd say it's got a decent amount of power. I'd say you could probably modify the engine, get a little more power, and still feel like you could get a little more power out of the engine and be comfortable with a higher amount of power. So, yeah, so as far as the wind, we're going about 55. Doesn't feel like we're going 55. It feels like we're creeping along. It's pretty amazing. A little bit of wind over my head. And it's not really smooth wind. It's kind of like choppy wind, but it's not buffeting to where, you know, it's really vibrating my head to where I can, you know, sometimes you get the buffeting to where it even affects your vision, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, not bad at all in the wind. I haven't really noticed hardly any wind. Maybe the only disadvantage on this would be maybe not enough wind, especially if it's like really super hot. This could really cook you back here with no wind at all. I don't know if there's like vents you can open or something like that. Oh, the brakes, if you hit the front and the back at the same time, they're pretty sensitive. Seems like slow speed, like super slow speed. It's a little bit harder because you have this big visor in the front, and anything really with the big visor, the big dash, it seems like it's a lot more top heavy. But I just have to get used to this bike around those corners. And it really depends, you know, what you're looking for. You know, some people really don't like to look at the dash, but this one, it seems like the dash is quite a bit lower. So you don't really feel like you're, you know, in a car. Like sometimes in bikes you feel like you're in a convertible because you have this big dash in front of you. This one is low enough to where you don't even notice the dash. You like sit up above it, and it has a bigger windscreen that really helps out. I think it's a really good balance between the windscreen and the dash. I'm starting to think if I keep test driving bikes, I'm going to end up buying one. And it might be this one. This one is pretty amazing. Of course, on this one, you know, like I have a Dyna, a 2007 Dyna, and Dynas are like, there's so many aftermarket things you can do with the Dyna. I'm not sure if you could do a lot of aftermarket stuff on this one without really taking away. I mean, it's like a complete package. There's nothing you'd really want to do to this bike to really change it. So it's not really like you know, one of those tinker bikes where, you know, put the big ape hangers and you're changing it. I mean, on this one you could probably do like a custom exhaust and intake and stuff like that. Maybe give it a little more power, but I don't know if you'd want to, you know, change the bars or anything on this one. It's pretty perfect. You wouldn't really want to upgrade the suspension or anything like that. It's pretty awesome. So this bike kind of has an interesting sound to it, almost like you can hear the engine more than the muffler. Unless you really get on it, then you can hear some good muffler sounds. It's pretty quiet, but it's not like super quiet to where, you know, on some bikes, I've actually ridden some Hondas where you can't even hear the engine, and the problem with that is if you can't hear the engine at all, a lot of times you don't know what gear you're in or if you have to shift down or shift up. This one you can definitely hear the engine at all times. Well, it's kind of funny, the engine's a little bit louder than the exhaust in this one as far as just being stock from the factory. I don't know if there's any upgrades on this one. So a couple of these demo bikes, they actually had some upgrades, like one of them had like a stage 2 cam that was added. But as far as I know, there's really no upgrades on this one. But I could definitely check on that. But yeah, the only thing I don't like about these bikes with the big fairings is when you start getting really slow, it's a little bit top heavy. It's a little bit hard to actually balance it. But this one's not too bad. It's not like it's really super top heavy, like it feels like it's gonna fall over. It's just maybe a little bit unstable when you come to almost a complete stop. You kind of have to get used to it. I'm actually surprised that there's that much vibration. It almost feels like a rubber mounted engine on this one, which is kind of surprising. I've ridden a few of the Harley Davidsons, the new ones, and some of them don't have any vibration at all. And I'm assuming this one's actually on a key fob because it doesn't have a place to put the key. This has so much weight, you just kind of let off the brake and you just kind of fall forward. Yeah, we're gonna get all split up here. We should have waited until we could have all went, like right now. All right, here we go. Brakes were good. I was going pretty fast. Brakes definitely were good. Yeah, this bike is so nice, it's almost like cheating. So, yeah, we're going 65. Almost feels like a little bit of choppy wind on top of my head at 65. Like you could potentially have a little bit of buffeting if you were going like really super fast, like maybe like 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour. Wow. It's funny because the steering wheel seems really touchy, where you just put a little bit of pressure on it and it jumps. It's almost effortless to steer, which kind of makes it a little bit, I mean, you have to really pay attention to what you're doing as far as steering to stay on the highway. You really don't want to, you know, some bikes are used to pushing a lot harder. This one you definitely don't want to push that hard. Yeah, I kind of wish I could get my 2007 Dyna Street Bomb to be this smooth on the road. I like the look of kind of the chopper look instead of the you know, with the bags. But that thing is really super rough on the road. I'm still trying to work it. I definitely need a new front suspension on that bike. And then the really skinny tire kind of, yeah, it changes the whole dynamics. But it's definitely not as planted as this. I'm actually surprised on this one that it's so planted on the road, yet it's not that hard to turn. So if you actually look at, you know, like the Fat Boy or the Fat Bob, the bikes with a really big fat front tire, it seems like that big front tire really makes them super stable on the road. And this one, it doesn't really have that big of a tire. It's just like a normal size tire on the front. But yet for some reason this is like super stable. I don't know if it's the plush suspension on this that makes it so stable, but it just feels really good. The other thing that's kind of interesting is, so I'm following all these guys on brand new Harley Davidsons. Whoa, this thing turns so easy. It kind of surprises you. You are on the corner and you're almost turned too much because you expect to be pushing a little bit more on the handlebars, and then you push it and it's like you push it too much, and then you kind of jump into that corner more than you would expect, which is kind of surprising on this bike. The other thing that's kind of surprising is we're all going out. We have, I don't know how many people we have here, all on brand new Harley Davidsons, and we don't have, you know, the rumble that you'd normally hear on a Harley Davidson. It's like really super quiet. This one almost feels like I don't know, like a trike or something. like almost like you pull up to a stop and you're like, oh yeah, I'm on a motorcycle. I got to put my feet down. It's not a trike or a car or anything. It kind of fools you. It's almost like you're driving a car. It's so smooth. It's pretty amazing. All right, so we're coming back up here. All right, so I think this was bike number 8. That I took out. All right, see if I can get lined up here. Oh, this thing, that's the other thing is, take a look at this. If you actually have it stopped here and then you try to pull it back, yeah, and this thing is a beast. It's hard to actually pull back. It's pretty awesome. It's really heavy. It's kind of like my Dyna. If I park it kind of on a downhill slope, it's like, forget about it. It's really super hard to pull it backwards. But look at the seat on this. I got a little dirt from my shoe. That is a huge seat. Really super plush and comfortable. That thing really surprised me how nice it is. All right, guys, so that's it. That is the 2021 Harley Davidson Limited. That's an amazing bike. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.